Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on this 25th day of November 2025. I am in studio with Professor Alfred Omenya, Mheshimiwa Robert Mbui, Mheshimiwa Gladys Boss, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, and Sheila Olang, Development Economist. We are here talking about different issues, including the pledge or the announcement by President William Ruto that we can transform to a first world during our generation or in our lifetime. And he outlined some of the things that we must do. Let me begin with you, Professor, on this one. What you made of that statement on Thursday in Parliament?
Well, no, thanks, Sam. I think we all want, to get better.
Yeah.
And this, I believe, the president meant what he had said. And this, interestingly, when I was being invited to come here is very interesting. This is an issue I've had occasion to discuss with the president himself and the cabinet.
Yep.
Almost a year or so ago. And to start with, I think it's okay to aspire. But of course, sometimes I think it's okay to aspire. Let me start from there. Yeah. And if you look at all these visions, I spent a bit of time looking at Vision 2030 before I came here, and the two of the Vision 2030 directors are very close personal friends of mine, and I'm always quarreling with them about it. That's Mugo Kibati and Ken Mwige, who's running the vision currently. If you look at these broader development visions, they're actually very interestingly similar, and even what has been covered in the newspapers today.
Yeah.
You're looking at a high human development index, where you're saying you really want your people, to be advanced, at personal levels, to lead good quality life, to be happier, to be productive, and so on. There's an economic aspect of these visions.
Yeah.
And the same thing, that you want, to grow your GDP, your GNP. You want to ensure there's a lot more money in people's pockets, and so on. And then, of course, you also want to have strong institutions.
Right.
That is what defines the first world. Actually, they're scoring very, very high on those indices. To come to our own Vision 2030, it was quite curious that our own Vision 2030 has a social pillar.
Yep.
Listen, social pillar, economic pillar, and political pillar. I always tell people that, in fact, we don't see infrastructure there as a pillar or anything like that. And you can link those things. Our social development relates quite well with human development indices that we're talking about. Yes. Our economic pillar is the same as the economics of the first world. And our political pillar actually aligns quite closely with the institutional pillar of the developed world. And if we are coming further to our own constitution and Article 132 and the aspects on which the president is meant to speak about, a lot of them are issues around governance which you can link with political pillar in terms of stability of the country, in terms of equity, in terms of transparency, in terms of accountability, and all those sort of things. And then we have this sustainable development aspect, which in fact you can link quite closely with both institutional and social aspects of development. In my own area of expertise, that's why I'm super excited to be around here. We've been preaching this forever, that actually you don't need to do anything outside of, we call them 4 pillars but of sustainability, but they're basically just 3. You're looking at, again, economic sustainability. How do you build your country so that you are rich, but also everybody is rich? There's equity and so on. That's the economic aspect of it. And then how do you develop your country in a way that socially people are actually catered for? You're looking at health issues, you're looking at education issues, you're looking at culture, you're looking at religion and so on. Those are very important aspects of sustainability. And then we ask ourselves, what about institutions? You cannot talk about any of these things without institutions, and strong institutions for that particular matter. In our instance, we're looking at our political and democratic institutions and governance and so on. So my point and my position is that these visions have been okay, but then how do we translate these visions into action? How do we bring it down to the point that Omenya has money in his pockets, that Sam is happy, that Mweshia, is flourishing? How do we then break that down And this was the heart of my conversation with the president. And we attempted to do this in a very systematic way in Kibaki's time. Where we had our Vision 2030 with these pillars, and then we had all these different components that contributed to the vision. And then, of course, these are linked in a very systematic way to our economic plans and our national development plans, the spatial plans. In fact, during that time, Kenya, for the first time, had a national spatial plan. So all these things that we were aspiring to, we spread them on space. And we could see that this would happen here, this would happen here, this would happen here. But eventually, the bigger story was what impact would it have on the people? Okay. Because all development is really about the people. Then this was broken down quite systematically into the medium-term development plans, and then translated quite carefully into our national, our annual budgets and economic plans and so on. So we're actually budgeting for things that we envisage in the vision. Yeah, but then we need to always remind ourselves, our people, that what is this vision that we are aspiring to, and how are we taking people there? And for me, I think what we've lost currently is the coherence of that narrative. It's not necessarily the absence of the vision. It's basically the coherence of that narrative to say, what do we actually, what do we aspire to as a country? And is this... It's our democracy and our democratic institutions. It's our rule of law. It's our governance. And then how are we getting there? Okay. What are we doing to systematically get there? Okay. What do we aspire to in the social space? And then what are we doing currently to get there? What are we doing in our education system? What are we doing in our health system? All these things. And then eventually, what are we aspiring to from an economic point of view? Because even the first world currently have ran away from mere infrastructure and mere, GDP measures to actual, fulfillment of individuals. It's interesting, the Malaysian president, prime minister is around, and we're talking about Singapore. Yep. I would ask people to go and find out what is the current Singaporean vision. And at the heart of it is the Singaporean, is the citizen. And where do you want to take this citizen to? Okay. And that is a disconnect that I'm not seeing in this visioning process.
Okay. I'll come back for more because I think we need to process a few things that you said there. But Mheshimiwa Mbui, I didn't see you in the House. Were you able to follow the statement, and what did you make of it?
Yeah, thank you. Sam,
have you absconded duty?
I wasn't in the House because the Deputy Speaker here made a complete blunder of sending me out of the House because of her own indiscipline on the floor of the House. When she completely threw out the standing orders and our Constitution, and
Sheila and I will mediate,
and decided to wield power
guilty
that
as
really
charged.
Doesn't have.
I suspended him from the House for 5 days.
She suspended me because suspended me because she was running the House with 20 members of Parliament in the House. Now, the Speaker is ordinarily not supposed to know whether there are people, because that's not the role of the Speaker. Yeah. It is members of Parliament that actually stand on a point of order to call the attention of the Speaker to show them that the House has no quorum. Now, at that time, they are passing very, very important bills, like the government-owned enterprises bill and others. And so I stood on a point of order and insisted that I get the attention of the Speaker so that I could draw her attention to it. Of course, because I'm in the minority, she chose to ignore me. I stood up, by the way, broke the law and stood up and shouted. She continued to ignore me. So what recourse did I have? I attempted to take the mess. In fact, I would have gone with it. I would have taken it. No, I took the mess, but I didn't get out of the House with it. I took it out of its place. But I tell you what, Sam, even when I had the mess in my hands, they were still calling out, votes, and people are still saying aye, as usual in that House. This Parliament is completely...
And the ayes had it.
Sorry?
And the ayes had it.
And always they had it. The ayes had it when I had the mess with me on the way out. So
allow me to respond.
And then at the end of it all, I'm thrown out. Yes, it's okay. I do agree that I did breach the House rules. But so did the Speaker. The only problem is that, as a member, you have no recourse. So I've written to the Speaker. I've written to the Speaker himself and told him that this was unfair because I acted the way I did because of the indiscipline and the misconduct of the Speaker herself. Had she given me an opportunity, I would have said there's no quorum. we would have rang the quorum bell. There would maybe members would have come. If they don't come, we stop the proceedings of the House. So anyway,
no, just before you go away from that.
Let me proceed now.
Just hold on, Mr. Mbui. Deputy Speaker, I don't know why you're laughing. Maybe there's something we do not know.
For me, when this happened, Mbui is one of the members who participates throughout on every debate in the House. On those two bills, you are the most active member. He even suggested amendments that were eventually adopted by the committee. He is one of my most active members. I have a lot of respect for him. But that day, I don't know what happened to you. Because, first of all, I didn't even know that the only time I saw you is when you went to pick the maize. And he carried the maize 3 meters. He carried the maize 3 meters away from where it normally sits. Yeah. He actually managed to take it. In fact, I asked the sergeant at arms, how did this happen? Because mostly members threaten to take the maize. But they never take the maize. He took the maize. That's what I must give it to you. How you did it?
Maybe they did think he could.
Yeah, because I think he's not seen as the more antagonistic members. So he actually carried it. So even when he says that he wanted to stand on a point of order, I didn't know that. I only saw him when you took the mess, and I looked at myself and I said, why would Mbui do this? Because he's not that kind of person. But
now, Deputy Speaker, in your order, you said that he attempted to take the mess. Now you're saying he actually took it.
Actually, the majority leader said he attempted to take the mess. Then I corrected the majority leader. I said, no, he actually took the mess. And it's in the CCTV cameras. Yeah. He took the mess completely.
To stop the order of business.
In fact, somebody said to me that, why did you give him 5 days? Because you can give a minimum of 5 days and a maximum of 28 days. But because he's normally a well-behaved member, I was very lenient on him.
He's a first offender.
He's a first offender. You know, and not a bad offender usually. So I gave him 5 days. Actually, I'm actually being attacked now and told you can't give the minimum sentence. Should have given the maximum sentence.
Okay.
Because he went with the mess.
All right.
So I was still waiting for him to.
When do you go
but you're
back,
coming back today, yeah? The 5 days, including the day I suspended you.
Incidentally, I think the 5 days, there's a debate on, is it sitting days or is it calendar days?
It's sitting days.
If it's sitting days, then that is why I had to stay out of, and maybe the intention was to keep me out of the president's ride.
Okay.
They didn't want me to be in the house when
let's not get to
to shout to Tam.
Because I would have been embarrassed sitting in the house and members are shouting to Tam.
Let's get to the flesh of it. If you followed this statement, what do you make of it?
So I guess first and foremost, the first world cannot be achieved. You know, when the country is being led by leaders that have serious integrity issues, you know that the president himself, and I'm not casting aspersions, it's in public domain. You remember what happened to him when he was deputy president, when he was trying to grab land belonging to Langata Primary School for his hotel, Western Hotel. He actually many times denied any connection with that hotel. Later on, he admitted that he's a shareholder. But then also, even his cabinet is made up of people with serious integrity issues. EACC did actually write to the committee that the Speaker and I sit in, the Deputy Speaker and I sit in, and that is a committee of appointments that deals with the vetting of, state officers. And one of the candidates for the president to be in cabinet had issues, and EACC actually wrote to the committee and said, this individual, we have investigated him, we have frozen his accounts, he should not be in cabinet, he cannot be holding public office. Yep. Of course, the Speaker, you are in the committee, you know, I don't want to name names here, but you are in the committee, you know, we had a report of, that came to us and we debated it. And this is an individual who EACC itself writes and says, we recommend that you do not vet him, throw him out. But then, of course, the influence of the majority, as we always have in this country, he ends up being vetted and passed with flying colors, and Isikuti dancers come to Parliament to dance there in celebration.
I remember which one.
In celebration of that kind of misconduct, in my opinion. Yep. So I think you've also seen the same administration has a candidate who even EACC has asked IEBC not to clear to vie for any elective office.
Right.
Because when we do that, you end up with a parliament full of individuals with, dubious, reputations. You end up with a cabinet with people of dubious reputation. How then do you expect us to go to first world under those circumstances? But then again, I've also seen that this regime has a lot of poorly thought out, policies. And that is the reason why they've taken control of parliament, because it's easy to pass policy of left, right, and center without recourse of what the public wants, without even using professionals to advise, so that you can run roughshod over all of us and pass whatever you want. You saw, like the other day, the CS Treasury said every government procurement must be done electronically. We said that. The law allows manual and electronic, but the government is insisting it has to be electronic. It is maybe a good thing to go electronic. Maybe there is advantages. Yeah. But then the same time is when we are hearing that we are losing money on e-citizen. We are hearing that we are facing problems with a system that identifies students in schools. We are having a problem with the SHA system where we are losing a lot of money. So again, it means that, and then you remember last week, was it last week, when we had hackers that had actually hacked into some of these systems. So these are the things that you want to be able to discuss. But you can't discuss them because we have a regime that wants to do things like they want to take us to first world today and from where we are. And that's the problem we are facing as a country. You cannot give birth to a child and tomorrow they are running. There has to be those stages. And if you skip any stage, then obviously it will not be, proper, whatever. How do I put it? There is no way they will grow properly. So what happens is that we're being told first world, and then we are cheated you are going to first world. But at the end of the day, people are actually worse off than they were about 3 years ago. Now, I don't know whether the Deputy Speaker is aware that when they were busy saying aye to the government-owned enterprises, they were giving the current regime authority over state corporations and removing the power of the Controller and Auditor General and the power of Parliament to oversight any of those enterprises. I don't know whether she knew. And those are some of the reasons that we were fighting. We were saying, no, you must have Parliament oversighting all this because they are state-owned, they are government-owned. The minute they become public limited companies, then the power of Parliament ends. Okay. So anyway,
I'll come back to you. Let me first hear from the Deputy Speaker, because you sat in the House, you listened to the President, and what are your reactions to the State of the Nation address, knowing too well that in Article 132, like Prof was saying here, it gives a description of what State of the Nation is. But the President had a mention of that, but at the same time laid out an ambition of what the country should be achieving. Is that where it falls?
No, I think for me, this particular State of the Nation address was very timely, very inspiring, because the President was able to be candid with the country. He said, this is where we were, past tense. This is where we are at the moment. And this is where we are going as a country. And this is what it will cost for us to get to where we want to be. Laid out the cost, and also laid out 4 pillars that we must achieve in order to get where we are going. So it was a truthful statement. He didn't just say we are going to get to the first world. He said we're going to get to the first world, but it's going to take these steps. Some of the steps painful, hard. We are going to struggle as a country, but we are going to get there. And for me, that's what I want to hear. Because when I listen to those who are rubbishing that speech, I told them, give me an alternative. Tell me how we're going to get there as Kenyans. Don't just tell me, where we're going to get 5 trillion. Just tell me, what is your option? And that is what I would challenge Bui, who's almost literally the official opposition leader in Parliament. Tell me, give me an alternative. Tell me, this is where Kenya is. This is where we want to take Kenya, and this is how we can do it. Give me an alternative option. They have never given us an alternative option. Because I'd rather somebody who's trying than someone who's doing nothing. I'd rather die trying to make an effort and to get there. than just to sit back and say, oh, we've given up, everything is bad, nothing is working, you know, the plan is not working, yet you're not giving us an alternative. We must, as Kenyans, even you, in your own personal life, every time you go for that election, you know that you struggle to get into that election. At least you're struggling to try. Do you give up and say, oh no, my opponents are better than me, I don't think I'll be able to do it, I think it's too expensive? No, you don't. And that's what life is. And that is, I hope that Kenyans felt what I felt, which was I had hope. I knew that Kenya is going to change. I know that my children and my grandchildren are going to have a better Kenya. And that is what we want. And he gave us examples of other countries that have gotten there. And remember, we are not even doing this for ourselves. We are doing it for the next generation. We owe it to the next generation that we must change our country. Just the way you're saying that a child is not born today and starts running tomorrow. You've said it very nicely. Exactly. Kenya, we are going to have a plan. We are going to give birth to all these ideas, but they're not going to start running today. Mm-hmm. It's going to take time. Okay. It's going to take many doctors' visits, many fixing of problems, challenges that we'll face, etc. And that's why, even when you say that e-citizen had a challenge, that immigration thing was down, SHA was having a problem, registration of students, believe me, I have built a digital system, Kenya Law Reports. I started it from scratch. When we started, we struggled. The site would go down, things wouldn't work. But today, it's winning international awards for what it is doing. So it doesn't happen overnight. Mm-hmm. So we must tell ourselves, even the SHA, e-citizen, it will have challenges. And when you say that the system was hacked the other day, by the way, part of testing your system is you hire hackers to hack it so that you can test the integrity of the system and improve it.
Are you saying those hackers are hired?
Yeah, that's what you do. That's what you do when you're building a system.
For sure, you're right. It's possible to do that.
That's what you do when you're building a system.
But are you saying the system was hacked?
Sorry?
Are you saying the system was hacked?
No, the system, yes, the system had
Sorry, it was intended by the government.
No, I'm not going to confirm that, but I'm just telling you that this is what you do when you're building a system, is that you actually, we have what we call ethical hackers, yeah? We tell them, hack the system, you actually deploy. You just deploy, no, because there's no way you're going to know that your system is foolproof unless you have people. So actually, part of building a system, and like I told you, I've built systems before. And what I've done is that I've always hired people to constantly try and hack the system. Okay. You have people on your payroll to do that. That's their job. All right.
You've raised an important issue, but you've refused to confirm.
No, because I'm not the government spokesperson.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So I think it would be unethical for me to try and confirm those things, but I'm just telling you from my own experience. IEBC, I was there when we built the system that is there. I did Kenya Law Reports. I was the CEO. I know. So that's what you do.
That's okay.
So
Deputy
I don't
Speaker.
take it at face value.
All right, Deputy Speaker. We'll get to the details. Sheila Olang, your experience will tell us a few things, whether you're looking at Kenya, the region, or even outside. That statement by the President, how close does it take us to achieving the intentions of the country, whether they are contained in the Constitution of Kenya or the many political promises that have come through manifestos of different political parties?
Thanks, Sam. I think, let me start by saying I was listening to Deputy Speaker, and it's really nice that he walked away with hope. I think on behalf of my generation, we just looked at that 5 trillion and we were like, are we ever going to pay this, and how are we going to pay this? A lot of us we're not looking at it as we're very hopeful.
We have the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Yeah. Hold on. We have integrity issues in this country. Yeah. We have, and you will agree with me that we have integrity issues in this country. So a lot of us looked at it in a very nervous way because, justified or unjustified, we have a lot of trust issues. Our trust deficit, when I look at a plan like that, it just goes off the roof. Mm-hmm. And I keep thinking, already last year we were in the streets fighting not to have the Adani deal because we felt there's lack of transparency. listen, we don't trust you to go to the table and negotiate on behalf of our future, right? If it is not a fair, if it is not a transparent process, when we have to pay that, like I'll have to pay that, my children will have to pay that in years and years to come. So the least you could do is to be able to, we're already paying, but I'm even, when I saw the 5 trillion, I was like, oh my God, like how? With the privatization,
so we just do
with the
nothing?
regulation, how? I'm getting to it. Now, the fallacy that trying to say this is not the way to do it, that the option is to do nothing, is also not fair. That is not the option. When we are asking for transparency, when we are asking that we have a process that has integrity and that follows the law, the response is not just to say, so we do nothing. Some of us here have spent, like I'm a development economist, I've studied Singapore, I've studied the BRICS. I mean, they've done it in many different ways. So the option is not really to do nothing. It's not to say if we look at something and we say, hey, we need better transparency, we need strong institutions, governance that works, that means that we want you to do nothing. Absolutely not. In fact, the job of leaders is to carry our ambition. When we look at Kenya, and I look at it, 20 years from now, I would like to see your job is to carry that ambition and move it forward. But the reality is, like tumechomwa sana, like we've been through a lot as a country. And you have to acknowledge that. Especially as young people, we feel very disillusioned in a lot of this discussion. Because you ask yourself, what is the priority here? Number one, Sam, you asked me about this concept of first world. I have a problem with the terminology. It is very, very backward. Correct. We moved from using the word first world, and please, if the government spokesperson is listening, we don't say first world anymore. The idea of first world started in the Cold War. There was the first world, there was the second world, and the third. And the first was really the pro-Russia, that. Then the second world was more pro-America, and the third world were countries that were really neutral. And then from there it evolved, of course, it's a long history, but then the term evolved to describe countries in terms of their economic status. But this was deemed as extremely racist and wrong, and it has been agreed that we don't do that anymore. These days we talk about developed countries and developing countries. That is the most up-to-date way of defining these things, and terms are important. So no, we're not going to a first world, because even if you look at countries like the US, like we said, the politics, the institutions are very important. They're going through their own fair share of issues. Yeah. So there's nothing like a first world. It's developing and developed. So now we're trying to transition from a developing country, and we're trying to move and develop further so that we become a developed country. So I'll give a bit of my economic take on this. It is very true when the president spoke that the macroeconomic indicators are doing well. Right? So you have the inflation rate, you stabilize the shilling, and all of that, you have to give credit where it's due. Whether you're feeling it or not feeling it, liking it or not liking it, it is just a mere fact. Now, is it enough to have working macroeconomic indicators? The answer is absolutely not. You have to work on the macro, but you also have to work on the micro. Right. So let's go and check what's going on in the micro aspect. The reality is, Kenyans today, their purchasing power has gone down tremendously. So it's like saying, we were saying this, you're going to build a very nice dining table. It will have state-of-the-art wood and state-of-the-art china and silvers that you can use, for the forks and knives, but there's no food to put on that table. And that is what we're experiencing. So what was missing in the president's address was quite simple. What about the micro indicators? What about the poverty index? Believe it or not, Sam, today we are almost at 40% in poverty index. This is why a lot of Kenyans honestly feel disillusioned. Because when you give them the macro data, and it's true, then the IMF is clapping for you, and the World Bank, and the rest of them, and we're sixth in Africa. And that's great. But you talk to the average Kenyan, what will they tell you? They will tell you, today, capitation issues, my school fees is going to go up. A youth will tell you, I'm going to school, I'm seeking employment opportunities because I don't have a job, right? We have a bulging youth population. We need to see the plan of how will we attack the micro. That is what is going on. Today, if you ask a parent, what about school fees? Are you able to afford basic needs? And if you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of need, at the bottom, before you can get to the nice bridges and the beautiful airports, right at the bottom, what is it? It's very basic. It's food, shelter, clothing.
Right.
So if we want to get to Singapore, one of the first things Singapore did in their rise, if you study that, was one, they worked on integrity, corruption. It was a key pillar of the development of Singapore. You can't just say you're going to build new whatever it is you're building. What is integrity? How are we going to attack it as a country, right? And when you talk about Kenya and you talk about the economy and you talk about integrity, the conversation flows that you talk about debt, you talk about odious debt, you talk about corruption. It flows that way. Right. What I did not hear from the State of the Nation address from the president was the issue of fiscal responsibility and debt. Where are we now? What is the plan? And how are we heading forward? That was missing. What I did not hear was about corruption at all levels. Right. Where are we now and how are we planning to attack it? Because one of the core pillars of the Singaporean model was this issue of corruption and strong institutions. Another similarity between Kenya and Singapore was that at the time, they also had a problem with youth unemployment. So that's a very similar case to Kenya today. Then you ask yourself, what did they do? They didn't even have natural resources. We are blessed in Kenya. We have more than we could ever imagine. We have natural resources. We have access to the harbors and all of that. What Singapore basically did is they said, okay, we're going to be very intentional with the economic planning. You know, find a way that we can get the youth so that they're employed, whether it's in labor-intensive sectors and the rest of that. There was a very clear economic plan that was intentional, that was leading us to where we are going. What we have now is a beautiful dream, and the question is, how are we going to get there?
Okay, and therefore, Deputy Speaker, the question I asked you about Article 132, that the President will shall once every year report in an address to the nation on all the measures taken and the progress achieved in the realization of the national values referred to in Article 10. And I'm just looking at Article 10, some of those values. The national values and principles of governance include patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy, participation of the people, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination, and protection of the marginalized. Let me stop there. Okay, let me just continue. There's good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability, and then there's sustainable development. If you're to listen to that, then look at the statement that the President gave. Yes, there were elements of the Hustler Fund and the progress made. There was a progress on what has happened to the affordable housing program. But you don't see a lot of work done to talk to these articles, these principles in the Constitution, but very big on the promise and how we generate 5 trillion shillings. Was that missing, according to you?
Okay. I know that you've talked about that, yes, you didn't hear anything on the micro, but there was. It's just that maybe they didn't use the words that you used. Because remember, they said, remember he talked about the national priorities. He talked about one, invest in the people, which is training, which is making sure that we have the setting up of the National Research Fund so that we can have a nation that is able to improve. And remember he said, a nation cannot rise beyond the abilities of its people, which means it is you, young people, that we must invest in. You're the ones who are going to be the ones to make it work. So that is, how much micro can you go to that? So we said, the point is that over 10 years, we are going to make sure that we train our people. That's why they're investing in STEM subjects in schools. That is why we are investing in the TVETs. Because we cannot become a manufacturing nation or an industrial nation unless we have the human capital to do it. That's one of the national priorities. So you cannot get to the micro unless you do certain things. Then he talked about the issue, the reason why the micro is not working is because we are a net importer. So we are going to move away from that and become a net exporter. And how do we do that? First of all, we went and said, on food items alone, we are spending 500 billion importing food that we can produce. Edible oil is our second largest import after petroleum. How are we going to grow as a country when we are losing foreign exchange just to buy food that we can grow? And that is why we've got to take our people back to producing food. That is micro. The fact that we have said to ourselves that we have to make sure that we are giving out seedlings, subsidizing seedlings, issuing seedlings to farmers, subsidizing fertilizer, subsidizing inputs, making sure that we increase places that we can grow food products. by making sure that we do irrigation so that we're not depending on rain-fed. Because right now we are only using 30% of Kenya to produce food. That is the micro. So those...
Sam, can I just clarify just one simple thing?
Those are the... Let me just finish this. So that is what we are telling ourselves, that we need to get to that level. We are saying that we are moving towards agro-industrialization. One, it will produce jobs. Number two, we stop importing food that we can produce ourselves. The reason why there is, in fact, actually, I said 30% of Kenya is producing food. I think it's 15%, according to the president's speech. Then we also said, in order to move to that level, the other third pillar was energy. We have to be able to have energy.
No, still, if you look at what you're saying, Deputy Speaker, it is still at the bigger outer scale.
No, but you cannot get to the micro if you don't do certain things. That's why I was saying that the speech went on, and as it went on, I was thinking, okay, this macro. It's only when he outlined the national priorities that I realized it's getting to the bottom.
I think, Sam, I was not discussing, just to be clear, I was not discussing sentiments in a speech. I was simply using indicators, right? Because when you stand in front of me and you talk about inflation and stabilizing the shilling, that's a macro indicator,
yes, I agree,
which he did.
Yes.
So when you want to talk to me about micro, we will maintain the same language. That's why I bring up the issue of poverty index. So the numbers don't lie. The poverty index, it's getting worse. Despite all these programs, and I'm not disputing all of these things going on, and that's why I say we have to go back to the drawing board. Otherwise, a lot of us Kenyans are feeling disillusioned. The math is not mathing. So we use similar indicators.
Yep.
So despite all of that, poverty index is going bad. Despite all of that, our purchasing power has gone down. So if you ask an ordinary Kenyan, are you able to afford more of your food today because of all of these reasons that you're telling me? They will tell you, my dear, I don't have money in my pocket.
By the way, you're in sync with exactly what the president was saying. That's why he said, let's stop importing food. Let's try and ensure that our people can produce the food.
I think Prof can help me better.
But I agree with you.
Speaker.
Yes, and that is why you said the basic is food, shelter, and clothing.
So that
you know what is interesting?
I'm telling you about food.
Deputy Speaker, allow Professor to speak.
Late last week, the US, the Fed, the federal government, got the economic data for last year. They were reviewing it, and the US economy is actually growing. And there's a crisis currently amongst the Feds. Where is the crisis? The crisis is that despite the fact that the macro that Sheila is talking about here are improving in the US, this micro is not. The jobs that are being created are less, affordability is down and so on. And for them, it's a national crisis. Because they're saying, how can we be doing so well, using these macroeconomic indicators, the broader growth and so on, and it is not percolating to the people. It's a crisis now, as we speak. In fact, you can check that on the net and so on. For us, it's the norm, and we're even trying to justify it here on air. The truth of the matter is that the Kenyan is poorer. Same thing, I told the president, I run a farm. My farm is doing badly, not just in terms of business and so on. The environment is worse. I personally, I go to buy in the supermarket myself. And yes, I'm poorer, I know that. I'm not even talking about this abstract individual down there. And I did explain to the president that, yes, some of these things that I'm talking about are personal things that I'm actually experiencing. So, yes, the story might be rosy on this higher side, at that bigger level, and maybe the people are enjoying it. But the ordinary person is actually not engaging with that. And I think really, to be honest, there's a government that did promise a group of people called hustlers that their lives would be better. If I was Gladys, Honorable Gladys, if I was the president, the crisis for me would be, are these hustlers actually doing better? And how do you measure that the hustlers are doing better? Do you tell them that the economy grew by, in fact, it was 4.7%? In fact, it is, do they have more money in their pockets? Can they spend more? Are they feeling richer? Can they afford better healthcare currently. As school fees come down, all these issues, I'm conflating two. I'm looking at this, both social and economic issues. Because ultimately, and that's why I was making reference to the current visions of the same countries that we are aspiring to. And these visions are no longer just mere economic visions. They're people-centered visions that we're saying at the end of the day, why should the economy grow? So that Gladys can feel better, so that the hustler can feel better, so that Omenya can feel better, so that I can feel that, this is the country I want to be in, so that I can feel this is where I want to do my business, so that I can feel that, yes, the things going on outside there, they're not perfect. The president is trying, but I can actually see those improvements. And if I was a government, what I would be looking at is fine. We have these macroeconomic data, but what is this other level of information? We know it, particularly for our class. Here I am paying school fees, and yet I'm being taxed, and we have free education. Yeah. You know how many WhatsApp groups you put in for health. For people who cannot actually afford healthcare, you know how many people are crying outside there because SHA is not working and so on. So we have this thing, really. I think Kenyan politicians, both of you guys, must actually step up to the plate. We need some little bit of honesty. It doesn't hurt to be reflective, to say, yes, we tried this, and it's not quite working. Okay. And we are going to refine it so that eventually we can be able to make these things work. In my area, one of the things I'm normally very passionate about are people who can afford mortgages. That's a very interesting indicator. Do you know we're looking at less than 50,000 people in this country currently? Currently.
Or even cars. Who can buy a car?
Who can actually buy a car? And meanwhile, we want to produce 200,000 houses in a year. That is actually, in a year, 1 million in 5 years, which is actually financed primarily through mortgages. How are we ensuring that we shift this number from 50 to 100? To 1 million? Yeah. Is it even doable? And that's why sometimes I think some megalomaniac nightmares should not be confused with visions for our country. You must be able to break down these things in a way that then they become believable. Even you must believe them. Otherwise, they just become mere rhetoric, mere stories, and so on. So I think that's what is lacking, that yes, we are seeing a compelling vision being put outside there. Yeah. But on the other hand, the vision is so far-fetched. It is like having this boda guy, and then you're telling them that, look here, next week, you'll be riding in a private chopper that, in fact, you'll have bought because of your... it's unrealistic. But if you're telling this person that, in fact, your boda will be in such nice condition and your customer base might shift from 7 to 10, that's believable.
Did you just call visions nightmares? Now, Mheshimiwa Mbui, again, let me take you back to what the Constitution says, of the President giving an account of the progress made to achieving Article 10 of the Constitution. Is it important to read that article of the Constitution?
Yes, it is definitely important. And Kenya doesn't lack professionals and people that understand what needs to be done. Even listening to our panelists here, Prof and Sheila here, you can tell that we have intelligent people in this country. And the president must know that there is no monopoly of intelligence and knowledge. And sometimes listening also helps. And that's why sometimes when they push laws without listening to the public, I have an issue with that. I'm happy the Deputy Speaker has said that she recognizes as almost the official leader of the opposition in the House. I only wish she could see me. when I'm in the House.
Try.
You're in exile.
Yeah,
I'll get glasses.
she should see me when I'm in the House, not when I'm in the studio. But then again, Prof, maybe to just help, Deputy Speaker, maybe they're happy that hustlers are getting economic empowerment through handouts in the villages. But let's go back to the President's speech and what you have said, Sam, that the President is very good at very strong political statements. You remember his bottom-up, and the hustler narrative that won him the presidency. But then now the law confines him to having to deal with specific values and principles under Article 10. But let's look at some of them. One of them is about transparency and accountability. Are they running a very transparent system? Is it extremely accountable? I would say no, because even what happens in the house, and I'm talking about from my experience, I think we are not transparent enough. Look at human rights, because that's one of the things that you have to deal with, because he has to talk about it. He is on record instructing police to shoot the youth on the legs. In fact, you know, Sam, I was shot on the leg, and I've been wondering who gave that command.
You broke your leg.
No, I was shot on the leg.
You broke your leg.
I was shot on the leg. I was shot on... I don't know. You know, I find it interesting. Even my own personal injuries, the deputy speaker knows better than I do.
He broke his leg.
My leg was broken.
In a ditch. When they went to meet Raila at the airport. I know that. Sure.
So how was the leg broken? so I went and slept in the ditch, then the leg broke itself. So I was shot on the leg, my leg was broken.
Your legs.
And that's a human rights issue. Now, the president needed to also address that matter. You know, human rights is one of the things that he's supposed to talk about. Human dignity is one of the things under Article 10 on the values and principles. Yeah. You saw the expose by New York Times that we are sending Kenyans out there almost as slave labor. And he doesn't even address that matter, because those are the things that he needs to deal with. The social pillars, you know, the social pillars, we have education. We have problems in education. Universities, I understand, and I think, Deputy Speaker, you are aware that maybe only about 10% of our university students have afforded to actually be able to sit for exams. That is coming on the floor of the House, I think, within the week. Members are raising that as an issue, because our people are telling us they don't... This system that was created, the university funding model, failed. You know, those very quick schemes of the current regime, it failed. And for us to get back on track, it's taking some time. So that's a problem. Our education capitation to schools, they never send money on time. They never send the budgeted amounts. And so constantly what happens is that principals and head teachers are expecting a certain amount of money. So of course they create budgets based on what they're expecting to come from the exchequer. When the money doesn't come, they have already, of course, committed and suppliers have supplied the schools, they carry forward the debt. Now the next year, that previous year's amount is actually withdrawn, it's not paid, and it will never be paid. The government owes billions. And these billions that are owed to schools are actually owed to small traders, Mama Mboga and Boda Boda. Those are the people actually at the bottom of the bracket that are, you know, that don't have money. Our health has a problem. You know, what the government says and what is out there on the ground is totally mixed up, because they tell us that, you know, if you go to the hospital, they charge you they ask you to pay, you should go to a police station and report. But then that sounds so nice, but the reality is that it's only those very basic ailments like a headache where you get, you know, Panadol, those are the ones that are actually free. But people, many times, even headaches, people just buy from the nearest chemist or kiosk, you know. So people actually go to hospital when they feel they require medical attention. And that, if there is tests to be done and all that, there is payments that are expected to be paid. So that's also another failure of this regime. And then, of course, the consistency. And I think, Gladys, you need to also advise that one of the reasons we are failing as a country is this tax regime that you introduce every finance bill. We don't have consistency in our tax regime in this country. So if you are an investor coming from outside the country, you're not too sure whether to put your money here, because in the next 2 months, excise duty will change, you know, the VAT will change, you know, import duty will change. So there is no consistency. And so people, instead of investing in this country, businesses have closed, Kenyans are unemployed, and those that would have come to invest here are unable to invest here. So some, I think, the president just needs to reduce the nice talk and face the reality and, you know, and address the matters as enshrined in law.
Now, Deputy Speaker, I'm also looking at what we've had before, because I'll just read you what the plan was. The plan is the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza. Kenya Kwanza convinced that a right to water by 2027 will shift focus from large dams to household or community water projects with emphasis on harvesting and recycling. Where large reservoirs are viable, adopt PPP model using IPP model, develop Turkana aquifers using PPP model, deploy climate smart agriculture technologies, a couple of them. So here you will see that we were to shift from the large water reservoirs or dams, if you like. Now, in April 2023, the president spoke. I don't know why it's not loading, but he spoke and said that we are going to construct mega dams. How many were they?
In fact, actually, what he talked about
it was 100.
Mega dams
Yeah.
and macro dams.
That was in April. He spoke about 100 dams, mega dams. Now he's reduced it to 50 mega dams and 1,000 medium and small dams.
Yeah, what he's calling micro dams.
Don't you feel like we are struggling with scattered vision at different locations depending on the needs?
No, when the dams have been spoken to about, there's always been the plan. In the plan, there's always been the big dams and the small dams, including up to water pans at the county levels, and that is ongoing. Yes.
How many have we built?
I don't have the exact number now. If I know you'd ask me that question, I know I have notes on my iPad on it. But what has happened is that, yes, there is the big mega dams, which usually, those are the ones people get attention to, but there's macro dams, including the National Disaster Management Authority has also focused on having small water pans in various areas, especially in the arid and the semi-arid parts of Kenya, to be able to put that. So that vision has not been lost. It's always been there. And that is why
my point
there has never been a focus from independence. There's never been a focus to make sure that those arid and semi-arid areas become productive. The agenda has always been that we take for them food aid, relief food. That has always happened historically. This is the first time we're saying that part of Kenya has to become productive. We're going to put greenhouses. We're going to put water.
My point is, Deputy Speaker, there's a lot of we will. In 2022, in the manifesto, you say very clearly that we are shifting focus from large dams to community water harvesting programs.
Yes.
In April 2023, a few months after coming into office, the focus shifts to 100 dams, to 100 mega dams and 1,000 small and medium dams. Now, you restate it. When do we stop talking and action?
Yes. In fact, what I will do, I'm here next Tuesday. I promised you I'll be here. I will bring for you the list of all the dams that are in process. Unfortunately, I don't have my phone, but I know I have the list.
You tell me there are mega dams that are in progress. There are
mega dams. Yes, exactly. There are mega dams that are currently in progress. And there's
that have
also...
been started since 2022?
Yes.
Which ones?
Yes. I don't have it offhand, but I know that... And there are some that were even started earlier.
No.
But got stuck.
The earlier ones are the likes of Thwake Dam, which
all right. So can I promise you that on Tuesday, I will bring you that list.
Okay, we'll wait for it.
I know I have the list. It's on my phone. It's on my iPad.
Yep.
I just don't have those gadgets now.
Sheila, tell me.
I will list them for you.
Tell me.
So that has been happening. And then when you talk about, I know that he mentioned that SHA is not working and this. First of all, I want you to acknowledge one thing. Okay, first of all, I'm happy that everyone here has acknowledged that the macro is working. The micro is also working, but it has not been stated for you. And it will be stated. And
respectfully, as an economist, Deputy Speaker, let me take the lead on this one.
Okay, so let me finish responding. Let me finish responding. You'll have a chance, yes. You'll have a chance. I'll give you a chance. Hold on. Let me just finish. Then, and I know that Honorable Mbui has talked about, he's saying the whole issue of SHA, he says it's not working. First of all, one thing that has happened that is significant that must be acknowledged, NHIF used to cover only people with a pay slip. SHA is moving to cover everybody, including those who are employed or not employed. That, first of all, is progress, because we are now covering everybody.
That is for primary health care, isn't it?
Sorry?
That's for primary health care.
No, primary health care is covered.
That's what I'm saying.
Already.
So everyone, as long as you're registered, you will be covered.
But also primary. If you go to the primary healthcare hospital to get the usual pills that you get, that is already covered under the counties. It's being done. It's when you go to the level, I think, 4, 5, 6 hospitals.
When you get sick.
And when you go, SHA covers it. So I know that when people have complained about challenges...
No, you're confusing two things.
Yeah.
So SHA has different funds. the primary health care will cover everyone as long as you're registered, because it's primary health care.
Yeah.
SHIF is if you're registered and contributing.
Yes.
If you're not contributing, nothing.
Yes. But the difference is, today, when a person will go into the hospital, they can pay for SHA today, and it kicks in immediately. They can be able, so even if you pay for, you immediately pay, and it already, no, not for primary.
For SHIF.
Even for the main, even for
The
any
system
illness.
has to read that you are eligible. There are people who are contributing. The money has been deducted and remitted, but the system is saying you're ineligible just because SHA has not updated their system. Those are some of the challenges that people have had to deal with.
Yes.
Practical challenges.
Yes, there are practical challenges. And you know what? Let me tell you, I interact with the healthcare system all the time. I undertake so many medical camps in Uasin Gishu County, so I know. I listen firsthand to people. Yes, sometimes someone says it's not updated. It just takes a phone call, and they usually sort it out. Yesterday, there was somebody who needed to be admitted to Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. I made a phone call. I told them, just go there. When you get, I told them, just get to the hospital.
Had to make a phone call.
No. I'm just saying that they got to the hospital, and then their name wasn't seen. The hospital itself has a SHA attendant at the hospital, and they're usually able to solve it.
You know, Deputy Speaker, the beauty of it is that everyone here, I'm sure, is a contributor.
Exactly.
And we know people that go to hospital and have to face those challenges. Myself, I've had to make calls
all
to SHA.
All the hospitals have a liaison person from SHA. And normally, if there's any challenge, that SHA person deals with it immediately.
If you're ineligible, it's up to you to figure out how you will become eligible.
It has no problem.
But anyway...
No, it does have some challenges,
Speaker,
I admit. I admit that it does have some challenges, but I said when you start any new system, there will be challenges. And that is why I was at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital when we had the landslide victims from Elgeyo Marakwet. I went to visit them. And I went there, and the doctors told me some of the challenges that SHA had. And I told them, you people as doctors, you must tell us that. And I encouraged them to do a petition and bring it to Parliament so that we can change it. I did yes, I had a cancer walk and run in Uasin Gishu County recently, and I remember there's a lot of cancer survivors that I support, that I feed, and so on. They also told me about challenges that they have. And I said to them, please bring a petition to Parliament and explain these challenges. Because I agree that SHA, I don't say SHA is perfect. I said SHA is a work in progress, but a progress in the right direction. Yep. And that's why the Kenya Cancer Network came to Parliament. It was on my instigation that they brought a petition. Yep. They even, a few of their officials sat in the gallery. They gave their petition. The petition is currently at the health in the health committee. And I remember I spoke to the chairperson, Dr. Nyikal, and I asked him, how is it going? And he said they've realized some of the challenges, and we are going to propose amendments to some of the regulations under SHA. What we must do as leaders is not complain. My job is not to complain. My job is to get solutions.
Deputy Speaker,
so we already have two petitions.
We need to make progress here. And there's something you said that I need you to clarify, because you mentioned that the micro issues are okay, it's only that they have not been stated. Who is supposed to state? No, they were stated, but maybe not in the words that she wanted them to be stated.
Who is supposed to state? Because I've said investing in people is macro. What's one of the national priorities?
The question is...
moving Kenya from a net importer to a net exporter.
Deputy Speaker, you're not understanding my question. We're talking about the state of micro. State, vile ilivyo kwa sasa.
Fact.
Is it supposed to be stated or it's supposed to be felt?
Sorry?
The state of the micro issues that you're talking about.
In a speech you stated.
Does it become a reality?
We're feeling nice.
Deputy Speaker, does it become a reality when it is contained in a speech or when people are feeling it?
That's why I think we need to have an objective conversation.
Yeah.
This is why I started off by saying, because some people like saying the Kenyan economy is all falling in shambles. And I always tell them, let's not base this on what you feel, because in reality,
the GDP,
in reality, the shilling has stabilized. Now, whether you like it, you don't like it, it is a fact that the Kenya shillings has stabilized. In reality, inflation has gone down. Now, whether you like it, you don't like it, the inflation rate has gone down. In reality, Deputy Speaker, the poverty index has risen. We have more poor people. Now, whether you like it, you don't like it. So